I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's good to see such an overflow crowd on such a nice evening as this. For the report of the President, I spent the day down in Annapolis yesterday. First couple hours, we were being filled in on the numbers in the governor's budget. And so as the county's working through our budget process, this will give you a little bit of an idea of the reason why certain cuts are being made and everything. Probably the scariest thing that Mr. O'Malley gave to us over his years is an unbelievable amount of debt service. This year, for 2015, debt service is $140 million. By 2016, it goes up by 95% to $274 million. By 2020, it's $529 million. That's an unbelievable amount of money we're paying for debt service. And so that's the reason why Governor Hogan is making some of the cuts, some rather drastic cuts at times. We just can't keep living on that kind of borrowed money. Overall, through 2016, Allegany County is going to see about a 7% cut in the money coming our way. Basically, the proposed reductions is a little over $2 million coming into Allegany County now. This is for all different kinds of money coming into our county. So that just gives everybody a little bit of a heads up for what we're looking at over the next couple months as we prepare our county budget. Gentlemen, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
No, sir.
None.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 15th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Kale, this is some good news that we bring back from PACE. And hopefully your video works.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Sir.
This kind of follow-up, a lot of this you guys know we're trying to present to the public. It's kind of nice that we all three commissioners sat through the morning meetings with us when we did our presentations. The purpose of this meeting, every year we meet with state and federal officials to discuss funding for water and sewer projects in the county. A booklet is distributed and discuss all of our projects in the county, the current ones we have, and that's
Click up the right-hand corner. X.
just relax, guys. I know how to do it.
You sure? It's an engineer.
Okay. We distribute a booklet. We discuss every project that we got going on in the county, with the ones that are currently funded, the ones we would like to try to fund, and then future, so we kind of lay out the plan for the next 10, 15 years. We also allow time for other jurisdictions to discuss their projects. And you'll see who those are. The meeting in 10 days, which is very important to us. If you look at the first three people, Denise McClish from USDA Rural Development, Cindy Stone, and Waleed Safori, we have three organizations represented there, and their directors, if you see their titles, they're directors. Denise McClish has been coming for over 20 years with us. If you've been president of the meeting, which you guys have, she's a very interested in partner helping Allegany County. Cindy Stone is the same way, and Waleed Safari. If you look down through the list, we have Ann Stringer, who's the assistant director, also from Maryland Housing and Urban Development. We have Kendra Harmon and Brandy Burwell, and they're the people, they're kind of the boots on the street. They're the ones that review our projects, review our funding applications, and review our studies when we send them in. Charles Day is a finance person. He attends there in case we're looking for some financing. We haven't really utilized that too much in the past. Gary Magaziner is the boots on the ground for MDE. He reviews our plans and specs that we send any project It's sent to the Maryland Department of Environment. They got to review the plans and specs, and it's kind of nice as we go through this list. You'll see we have the people making the decisions to fund it, and we have the people who do the reviews. And the next person, Walter Lara, is new. It's the first time he's been there. He will review our funding applications and reviews our payment estimates and make sure we get paid on time. Chris Karski, which is another example of what we have going on, he's the person in the field. He visits these systems, and we work with him on what our deficiencies are and what we can do to improve it. So he comes out to Allegany County a number of times and visits our facilities. Joe Bracci is new. He's a compliance engineer with the Office of Budget. Barry O'Brien's been with the state. I've been working with him since I started in the late 80s. He's with the Water Supply Program, which is the one that determines what programs what areas we're going to try to help, like we just did Rawlins and Mount Savage, et cetera. And he also visits the area. As I said, we look at representatives from other areas. We give the jurisdictions within our county a chance to meet. Representatives from the city of Frostburg, the town of Allegany, the town of Westernport, and LaVale Sanitary Commission also spent the afternoon with these same funding agencies. So it's really worked out well. We've been doing this for approximately 20 years, and every one of these players show up every year, so it's been really good so far. Just our funded water projects that we discussed of note. Mount Savage, we're currently completing the house connections. I put some numbers down. That was an $11 million project, with 61% of that project was grant. The Rawlings project is final phase is under construction now and will be done next summer. It's a $5.6 million project with 85% grant. Fairgrounds transmission main, it's a $320,000 project, and it's 100% grant. The county doesn't have one penny in that. The Bowling Green improvements, which we plan to bid in February, is a $800,000 total grant project, and there's no county money in that. The importance of having the commissioners and our engineers and all the people present. This is a competition. They don't write up and say we're going to give the county $10 million a year no matter what happens. With USDA, we're competing against Washington, D.C. and Delaware and the whole country at times when there's money that's not, each little jurisdiction and each area in the country is given money. And in the past, we've been able to pull from other areas in the country because Allegany County has their projects ready to go, and Denise McClish has a little bit of clout, and we've completed our projects in a timely manner. When a project gets approved, it doesn't sit on the shelf. The worst thing that happens to a funding agency if they give us $2 million and it sets. That makes them look bad, and it makes they have a hard time getting money. We've been very successful and very quick. We've been very competitive in receiving funding, and then with the MDE funding, we compete against all the other counties and cities in the state of Maryland. So it's important to have all the players at the table to discuss these projects, and I think we've been really successful. And with these projects, when you see the funding, I like this program because the people, when you look at the different grant, the people that are represented there have skin in the game usually. If you look at that 61% grant, obviously we have a 49%, or 39%, we have our own money in this. So what they do is they determine what's affordable, and that's why you see a varying grant. So the federal government's determine what's fundable, so they're not just handing out money to somebody who's not going to take care of the system, and they're trying to make it affordable to the residents. So again, it is an important program. Years ago, I testified in Washington, D.C. for USDA to talk about the projects that they support. Proposed water projects that we're trying to get funded is Creek Road. We're short on funding. USDA has indicated down there at Annapolis that they feel they can fill that gap between the MDE funding and what we need to make it affordable. Barrowville area, they've gave us, it's been some controversial in certain areas. One area we're moving forward with. We've been given some other alternatives to the funding process, and we may be able to serve those people that need the water without maybe upsetting those people who don't want the water. So we're going to work on that, and that come out of these meetings. Mason Road, Pat Marr Drive, and Pond Circle have all submitted petitions to the Public Works Department, the county commissioners. They want water, and we'll work on funding applications for them. And they also mentioned during our meeting that the Vail Summer Water Tank is a project they would be interested in if we could afford the small loan. So we're going to look at that. Our funded sewer projects is the Braddock Run Sanitary District, Grahamtown Sand Spring Interceptor. It's a $1 million project with 50% grant. Braddock Run Sanitary District is a Wrights Crossing Pump Station Replacement. It's a $3.7 million project with $732,000 grant. In Bedford Road Sanitary District, Mill Run Area Improvements, it's a $1 million project with 87.5%. You look at Braddock Run Sanitary District, the reason we're taking a bigger loan on that is because that also serves the city of Frostburg, The Braddock run rates are currently lower than most of our districts, and we have a big chunk of people that can support that. So that's why that has a little bit higher loan. I did the numbers. And if you looked at the previous page of the funded water projects and funded sewer projects, you're looking at $23.4 million worth of projects we currently have in near completion or under construction. And better yet on that, $15 million of that is grant. So that means our citizens don't have to pay $15 million back. And I think that's, if you look at that, that's a high percentage of grant. And again, I'm proud of these projects because they serve water and sewer to people, and I think they're a absolute necessity to life and having a good area. Proposed sewer projects, we're looking at Rawlings area. As you well recall, USDA is very interested in trying to help us make an affordable project in the Rawlings area. Rawlings has approached us some time ago. It's ran by a homeowners association. They want out of the sewer business. They want the county to look at trying to serve them. So we're going to work hard. That's a $5 or $6 million project, so it will be very expensive. But if you recall, Denise was pushing us hard to try to get some documents together and do a study and see if we can make it happen. Beers Lane would tie into the Rawlings area. It's between there and the Barton Business Park. North Branch Wastewater Treatment Plant clarifier, we're going to work out some numbers. It's a clarifier that needs replaced at the North Branch Wastewater Plant. And the Locust Grove station or pump station rehabilitation, we're going to look at trying to see if we can make that affordable. And that's it. Any questions? Again, it's another good successful year, I think. And
I think somewhere along the line you should get money to build a shrine to Denise for all the money she's helped bring here.
Well, Denise is going to retire. I forget what exact years it is, but hopefully when you guys are still commissioners, that we promised her, when Jim Waters retired, we had a little retirement party for him because he was good for us, and I promised Denise we'd do the same for her in Allegany County. So if you work with Denise, she's a very hard-working person, and she really cares about what she does, and I think you all witnessed that. So what a wonderful partner.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Kale.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Thanks to you too, Jason. You sat through those meetings this year, and no one else is sitting out there that I have an opportunity to embarrass, but thanks again.
Okay, and now we'll...
Oh, Mr. Ryan.
He doesn't count.
For lunch.
As long as he sits there quietly, we're okay.
For the record, you were there for lunch.
That was the whole
Was it
thing.
lunch?
No, it was the whole thing. Yeah, lunch was there.
You were out of his line of sight, though. He couldn't see you. That's why.
I was sitting right next to Commissioner Shade.
No, I mean right
And you
now.
were sneezing and coughing and...
I know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, next we'll move into public hearing, road closing petition. Gentlemen, we did the opening on this road earlier, so now this is the next and this final step in this is in the road closing.
Good deal.
Good evening. Kathleen Callan, Heidi Coyle, Monteleone. This is a public hearing for the closing of Ray Street in LaVale. It was officially opened by the commissioners on December 11th, 2014. And is there anyone here to speak for or against the closing of Ray Street in LaVale?
No one has any comments? All the newspaper postings have been completed?
Yes, it was. Petition was filed with commissioners and the proposed order and the publication.
Okay, gentlemen, we can actually vote on this tonight if anybody would like to make a motion to wrap this thing up.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got your closing.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Have a nice evening. Be careful on the way home.
Be careful going home.
Yes. On our action agenda, we have a budget amendment item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Well, every year, we always have a handful of amendments to our budget. This year, this is actually our first amendment to the 2015 budget, and it has to do with boarding Carroll County prisoners. As you know, our detention center entered into an agreement with Carroll County back in October to help them with some of their overflowing population. Currently, we're getting $45 a day, and we're housing somewhere between 15 and 18 inmates every month for them. It looks like it's going to continue for us, but so far through December, we've generated $54,000, $54,855 to be exact. We'd like to go ahead and amend the budget to reflect that revenue and also allow the detention center to spend those monies. They need an upgrade to their video surveillance system. That was installed in 2002 as the facility opened, so it's due to be upgraded. So I think that they have a good use for these funds, and I think it's a worthy budget amendment. So we're just looking for your approval tonight.
And rental of jail cell space was part of the original design of that county facility, correct?
Yeah, and used to be, if you go back to 2008, 2009, we were averaging about $1 million a year boarding state and federal prisoners. That's dwindled as the state realized it was a very good revenue source, so they kind of took some of that away from us. So we're getting a little bit back with this. It's been a nice boost to us.
And we're still far from maximum
Yeah.
population, so we're not
Yeah,
hindering
thankfully,
anything here.
there was a separate housing unit available for this, so it worked out pretty well for all of us. And this is a
Okay.
good use for the money, so.
Okay, to hear a motion to accept this budget amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got your amendment.
Thank you.
Very good. We like getting Carroll County's money. At least one commissioner there is rich, kind of reminds me of our county attorney. So.
He's the one that puts those people in there. Okay, Dave, you want to go through our consent agenda? please?
Yes, briefly, Commissioners, our consent agenda this afternoon consists of items 4 through 6. Items 4 and 5 are tax abatements for tax accounts located in both the city of Cumberland and Allegany, where the properties in question are blighted and are scheduled for demolition. Item number 6, the last item, is simply an authorization for a 2015 salvage yard license for Jones Garage located in Bowman's Addition.
Any comments on this? Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Boy, it's an easy night. Dave, do you have any other
I do.
comments on that?
Briefly, Commissioners, as we had started in the previous administration, I have a letter of support for a piece of legislation that Senator Edwards has prepared. It's entitled, it's actually Senate Bill 44. It's known as Vehicle Laws, Maximum Speed Limits on Highways. This letter is addressed to the Honorable Robert A. Zirkin, who is the chair of the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee in Annapolis. Commissioners, if you be all right with me taking a few moments to read this letter into the record. Dear Senator Zirkin, the Board of Commissioners of Allegany County is pleased to submit this letter in support of Senate Bill 44, titled Vehicle Laws, Maximum Speed Limits on Highways. If passed, this legislation would enable the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation to evaluate and authorize increasing the speed limits on state highways across Maryland to a maximum of 70 miles per hour. Increasing the maximum speed limit from the present 65 miles per hour on specific highways, subject to administrative review, is reasonable. Increasing the maximum speed limit from the present 65 miles an hour on certain highways only makes sense, in particular in rural areas where traffic volumes are significantly lower than on interstates closer to the state's heavily populated urban centers. Along Interstate 68 in Garrett, Allegany, and Washington counties, traffic volumes by comparison are lower, and interchange congestion is virtually non-existent. It's important to emphasize that the speed limit on I-68 is 70 miles an hour traveling into the state of West Virginia. Thank you in advance for your favorable review of this legislation. Commissioners, your preference?
Well, if I remember right, when 68 was originally constructed, 70 mile an hour was the design speed for that highway. So
Posted speed.
I personally am in full support of this.
I'd like to see it be faster, so 70.
It's all right. Let's make it 75.
Yeah.
No, fully
Do I hear 80?
Commissioners, you okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, pass this down for your signature, please. And typically what we try to do, Commissioner Shade, if timing allows, we try to bring these issues that the delegation is interested in before the public in a business meeting and get all 3 signatures. And if for some reason the timing doesn't allow for us to get a letter of support, we traditionally grab the president of the Board of Commissioners to sign a letter on behalf of the entire board, subject to your approval. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rudd.
Nothing.
Thank you. Creed, do you have anything?
I don't, and I have another meeting, so I don't think it will have a draconian effect on the outcome of this meeting if I dismiss myself and leave, sir. So if you don't mind, I'd like to get to my other meeting, which starts in approximately 7 minutes, and get it over with before the weather gets bad.
Well, take into account that new speed limit, and you'll be there in time.
Hey, thank you. Have a good evening.
Jake?
Well, the biggest thing since our last meeting was the state budget came out, and we have the overview. We're not, we're still digging through the details, both up here and in Annapolis. The total, what we were expected to get, it was $2 million under our expectation for 2016, but from last year it was only a cut of about 700,000. So I think we fared pretty well, middle of the pack compared to what some of the other counties got. And that's just not directly to the county. That's spread out over library aids, some health grants, the college, some open space stuff. So it's not like the county's getting hit with all. So moving forward, it's good that we have been fiscally conservative here for the past couple of years. And we're not in the same dire straits as some counties are now, that the spending and the borrowing had to come to an end at some point, and it has. And there's some counties scrambling to get back on their feet. So glad we're not in that position.
Right.
Thank you.
The one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, the money coming back to the county from the slots income, that's going to be cut by 10%. We can't be sure what that total is going to be. It's estimated about $109,000. That'll be presented to the commission that we had to form. Jason's the chair of that. We don't think it shouldn't have any effect on what we're now offering for the two colleges, or even have any effect on what we are presently offering to the volunteer fire companies. It will have a slight effect on future increases to public safety and all, but for right now, we hate to lose that kind of money, but it's not going to be anything that we're really going to see any dire effects from. Anything else, Jake?
No, I think that's
So we got Jake taking care of Annapolis down there. He'll keep the governor straight. Okay, for public comments, Mr. Williams. You have 5 minutes, and that includes your time it takes you to get to the microphone. So you're down to 4 minutes now. You got 3 more minutes now.
Okay, thanks, Bill. At the last meeting, we talked about the Barrelville water situation, and Paul and you guys are doing, from what I understand, we did paces coming along for whatever. There is a process that our county uses that was implemented about 4 regimes of the guys that get to set up front ago. At that time, we had some folks do a little history digging for us. At that time, the county was trying to get rid of some paper roads and put other stuff back into what I think we term now OP roads. Is that right, Paul? OP roads means it's yours, not ours. At that time, when they decided to send letters out to have people vote on this, it behooved us that if I send out 50 letters and only 30 of them come back, that automatically that other 20 letters that didn't come back became a no vote against the project. It served the county well, which did whatever. Currently, we're still operating under that procedure. You guys have the power, the authority, or whatever, with a fell swoop, if I make a motion and I second and yeas and nays, to put this back the way God made it to be. If you send out 50 letters and only 30 of them come back, and you've got 20 yes and 10 no's, the vote is 20 to 10. It's not 20 to 30. You don't know, I don't know, nobody knows what people that didn't send that letter back, how many of them would have been yeses, how many of them would have been no's. Had we did that on a county election, per se, and 37% of the people voted for the county last year, then that tells me what? 63% of the people didn't vote would say everybody we had in office is gone. Doesn't count. you guys have the power to do this, and I think it would be a great thing to do for the county, because this system just cost us 2 communities getting water. Because when the votes came back, the votes that came back for and against it, it was for. But when you count 16 votes here, and it was 15 or 16 in Sunnyside, wasn't it, Paul? 16, I believe.
16 not returned, correct.
Yeah. Those all votes that didn't come back was a no vote. It seems pretty unjust to me, and not really a fair way for the county to conduct business. I've spoken to you about it. Creed said something about it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jake. But I think that would be the right way for this county to go forward from here, that if people are going to vote on something, if you vote, you vote. If you don't, too bad. Just a simple request.
Okay, Paul, what I'd request you take a look at this. You make a recommendation to the commissioners, possibly our next public meeting, and we'll take a vote on it based on the recommendation of our Public Works Division.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Paul.
If I can speak from back here.
Go ahead.
What we'll do, we want to provide water to the home. We're kind of taking a beating on this. We want to provide water. You do, and so do I. But we want to make sure they want it. I think we may end up going down there and doing a house-to-house survey to find out what's going on. But
Right.
our whole thought on this was, if you want water, you would take the time to return the ballot. And we flushed this out and discussed it. But we want what the public wants. And I love providing good drinking water to the community. I think you do too. So we're going to try to get it the best we can.
Right.
Paul,
Down someone's throat.
I really wasn't putting a beating on you for doing it that way.
Oh, I think you were.
No, I'm not. Honest, I'm not, Paul. My thoughts in the fair way to do it for everybody. Because if you stayed this way, no matter who sent a letter out for whatever, in that wording, you could word it so the people who didn't send it back was voting your way. They didn't do that. They were following by a previous county policy. But it can't be manipulated that way. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Paul, honest, I wasn't picking on you.
Thanks, Dan. Does anybody else have anything?
I'm Kenneth Wilmot, live at 513 Ford Avenue. I think the same way. If these people ain't got enough interest for their own concern, you send them out. If they don't send it back, they're out of it. And those people who do send it back, that's the only ones we should count. If 20 says yes and 10 says no, that's the way it goes. And later on, if they want it hooked up to that water line, make them pay. That's it. It's to their benefit. Same with sewer lines, you know. That's all I got to say. I think if people ain't got enough interest in it, let them sit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right, our next public work session will be Thursday, February 12th at 3 o'clock in room 212. And our next public business meeting will be Thursday, February 12th at 5 p.m. here in room 100. With that, thank you all for coming.
I guess I'm now to